G'day and welcome to the 6th episode of DJF Live. Very good to have you here in New York. Today we're going to talk about graphics, and I want to talk about a free way that you can get graphics into your live streaming productions. Bit of backstory is years ago I used to be using Adobe, and over the years I've used Blackmagic's Resolve more frequently, and also it was like Final Cut, and then I went to Adobe, and now I've gone to Resolve for that. And then for my photography, I've been using Capture One, which has meant things like I never got into Lightroom. I used to use Aperture, Apple's software, but then back in 2013 or so, I moved across, and let me just get rid of this comment here. There we go. All right. I moved across, but do post your comments in the chat, and we can get to that after this little tutorial about graphics. And if you have any questions about graphics going along, then do that as well. For my video and photography, I've moved applications over the years. I'm currently using Capture One for photography because it does a lot of tethering and all that kind of stuff. And I'm using Resolve for my filmmaking because I love the application. I think it's actually a really beautiful interface, and it's something that stands well above the rest of the applications, I think, particularly when it comes to like color grading and that kind of thing. So that has meant over the years, I've used Adobe's suite of applications less and less, to the point where I was really only using Photoshop for retouching and that kind of stuff. But in the last couple of years, Capture One has gotten to the point where the sort of level of retouching that I do for headshots and that kind of stuff is I've got enough in there for that. So I don't have to worry about going out into Adobe, and I can say everything within Capture One. I will bring up Capture One just so you get a little look, because the tools are great, and it's definitely really nice using a application like this. Where are we? Let me see. I think it was this one. There we go. So there's the studio backdrop here. So the basic layout is you can do your projects. So I can select my gallery here, and I can edit photos, and then I've got little like Lightroom, I've got all these tools and sliders, and I've also got the ability to do tethering, which is really nice for that. And then in this layer here, I've actually got a brushes layer, so you can actually do some masking and that sort of thing of whatever you want to do for that. And it's got a healing tool and that kind of stuff. So it's got enough in terms of doing the photography side of things, but I don't have enough for graphics if I want to layer up text and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to quit this application here. Let me see here. Okay, so that brings us to how do we get graphics into our ATEM? Because as you know, you probably need something like Photoshop to create a PNG file and to be able to import that into the ATEM. Well, the good news is that there is basically a free version of Photoshop online called Photopea.com. So it looks like, let me go back to here. It looks like this. So if you just go to Photopea.com, you can go there now, and we can work along together in this. It is basically Photoshop, and there's many other applications that I've looked at, like I don't remember them now, but like Giphy or something like that, or I can't remember what they're called. I went through and like looked at all sorts of free applications for times where I just needed to knock together some graphics, and this one is the best because if you're coming from Photoshop, basically all of the shortcuts and that kind of stuff are the same. So you don't need to relearn everything because time is money, and that's like just takes a lot of effort. So along this file menu here, you're going to have all of your very similar looking functions. The main downside to this, I would say, because I've got my key on, there we go. The main downside to Photopea is the ads. There's ads on the side. You're working in a browser, so it's probably a little more susceptible to, like, if you crash, you might lose some work. So you're probably not going to make the most masterpiece type stuff in there. And then the other one is 8-bit. There's actually like a little bit of there's 8-bit video, 8-bit files. So your color space and that kind of stuff is not going to be. You're not going to be making magazine printouts or that kind of stuff. But for creating some lower thirds to put on your ATEM, or to layer up some graphics, or to make a super source overlay, or even what I'll show you as well is like making a few buttons in Companion if you want to pull in the PNG files from there. Then this is a really great way of going about that. So what our goal here is that under your ATEM software, you'll know in your media pool, we've got all of these graphics, and I've got a few screen captures that I've done before, and I've got a few like 2-ups. So we're gonna look at like making a 2-up for a box for an overlay of a super source, and also some lower thirds. So let's take a look. All right. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to File and create a new, and we want the image to be, we can call this lower third, like that, and we're going to want a 1920 by 1080 picture here, and the background will actually make transparent. You can change this afterwards, so it doesn't really matter, but we're going to make that transparent, create that, and then we've got a file that looks very much like any other Photoshop document. I'm going to turn on my rulers so I can see what I'm doing here, and I'm going to go % like that, and I'm just going to drag out some probably about 5% borders so I can sort of have a safe area just so I'm working within that. It's about there. This is just visually, I'm just looking at this. Okay. So I have a rough sort of space of, I want to put something down here. I'm going to hit T for my, I think I'm hitting T, yeah, T for my text tool, and it started a layer here. I can type my name, David Joshua Ford. I can select all, and I'm just going to make that a lot bigger. I hit T twice, as you can see. And I'm going to make this font maybe bold, just so it's a little, let's go enter. Oop, deleted it all. Let's start over here. Maybe it's either too big or it's in like a different color. No, it's in black. What do we got? Oh, we're on a whole different layer. Here we go. Just gonna drag this down, delete that. And I don't know where that layer is gone, so I'm gonna just delete this one, go back to my text tool, click here. I've done something, guys. I've done something. Where am I? Under my text tool, type tool, clicking there. Okay, and I need to make this black. I don't know why it's not doing that. Just gonna go back to book. Could have been something with the fonts. They do have kind of funny fonts in here. It's not like exactly all the same ones, so that might be a downside. David Joshua Ford, and then I'm gonna go new line, New York City. I don't know why it's doing that. Cool. Actually, as you see, I obviously did not do this in a. Okay, it's usually a lot easier than this. Let's start again. David Joshua Ford. And we're going to go function enter. I'm just going to click away. Okay. Okay, now I got hit V. So I'm going to move this around. I'm going to place it here. Okay, I've got it. Whew. Man, I was worrying that was, I don't know what was going on there. It could be in my computer. I haven't had that sort of thing with the app before. I want to go make this white, and I need like a return key. Enter. Nope. Just going to click away off here. Okay, so now what I've got here is a title, and I basically just need to go File, Export as PNG, because this is going to export the alpha channel within it. So I'm going to save that. It's going to be in here somewhere, not in my trash. Could be my mouse. It's jumping around. Okay, so lower third, and that's, I'm going to just drag this in, get organized here. Okay. There we go. Lower third. And you go back to software control, back to Finder, drag that in. Okay. And so now we have this in here, and it's black because in the background is a cutout. There's nothing in there. And so I want to bring that on. So I'm going to drag this one onto my, let's go onto Media Player 2. And then I'm going to go just within here. Actually, I can probably put that on my downstream key. Let me have a look. Yeah, so if I turn on my, let's go to downstream key, number 2 is going to be Media Player 2. And I want to turn that on. And it's on in the preview. Or I can hold this down and that'll fade it on. Or if I hold it down, this will fade it off. And it's in the preview monitor at the moment. So if I hit cut, then this is what was in the preview monitor before. So there's a very simple way of getting a very ugly graphic up there. So you can use your artistic nuance to bring in that. You could obviously bring in where are we? So we cut back over here. Okay. You could bring in like a shape or something like that. Maybe you wanted to do that. Fill it, make it blue or something, and then just arrange the background. And maybe you want to do like a little line like that. Shape 2, make this one like slightly darker, Okay, cool. Just so you got a little more nuance there. Again, file, export as PNG, save that, come over to your Finder, which is going to be this one, lower third 2. I'm just going to give it a different name. Save that somewhere useful. And then under ATEM, Media Pool, back to Finder, drag that in. And then you've got a graphic with a little more stuff on it. So that when I, let me see if I can cut over, I'm going to drag, okay, I'm going to cut over here. And then on my media pool, I can go on media 2 to this one. So this was like a full screen graphic of like another week. That's why there's no alpha in that. And then this is the new one that has come on. So very quick and easy way, get a free graphic up online. Doesn't cost you anything. So from a file management point of view, just say you've built up this nice little document here and you want to save that. You can just go save as PSD and everything gets bounced out into your downloads folder. So now I've got this PSD here, which I could then close this and I could go File, Open, and I could find my lower third PSD. And it's loaded back up. Oh, sorry, I wasn't on. Okay, sorry, I didn't. Okay, so I wasn't showing that. Basically, I went export as PNG, save. I went into here, lower third, is the PSD here. And then when I close this, I can go File, Open, and I can bring that back on, and then I can go Upload, and it's going to open that up. So I've done a round trip there in terms of being able to archive my work, and I've got these layers here. If I ever wanted to just jump back in and change the name to Joe Blow. I don't know why that text is going away. It's kind of weird. Like I said, I haven't had that before. But that's what they always say. It seems to be in there. Maybe just taking a while to update. I don't know. All right, so that's that one. The important thing there is that you're exporting it as a PNG because it's got this transparency in the background. If you did it as a JPEG, you're not going to get that transparency to put in there. All right, so what's the next one? Next one we're going to do is, I might just get rid of those files and Just going to close this whole thing down. We're going to go to new. Again, we're going to make an image transparent. This one I'm going to call boxes. I'm going to call this 2up. Create. Okay, I've got my graphics here. So I'm just going to stage this out a bit. So I'm going to say from 45 and 5. So I'm making some boxes here so I can have like a two-way chat with someone. And 95 over here, and around about 8% there, and like that. And then maybe I want to just have a little text space here. Okay, so now I've got, hopefully you can see this, and the lightness of this opacity is not too difficult for you, but what I've got here is 2 boxes that I want to fill. So I'm going to go click down here, new layer, and this is layer 1, and I'm going to click to make this sort of blue. Excellent. And I'm going to go Option delete, which has basically filled the layer with this color that was in the foreground. And now I'm going to hit M for marquee, which is this tool up here. And I'm doing the rectangular one. And because this is snapping to the grid, I'm just going to drag a box like that. And I'm going to delete. And I'm going to drag a box and delete. And then you've got some windows for people to be behind and to look through. We could, I was having trouble with text before, so let's see if we can do this. Hopefully this will play nice for me. Make this a bit smaller. What do I got? 55. Cool. Let's run with that. I'm going to click back over here because I seem to have trouble before. Hit V so that you can move this graphic around. I'm just going to place this in here. And then over here, I'm going to I held down Option, I dragged it off on itself, and it's made this copy. And then if I go back to V, which is the move tool, I can just drag. Where are we? Okay, there we go. And I'm holding down Shift as I drag, so I'm just dragging this graphic out. And cool. I've got my other one. And now I can double click this T here, and I'm going to go remote guest, like that. So I'm making a 2up box here. Okay. Again, we go File, Export as PNG, save. Coming down here, 2up. Find my ATEM, find my graphics. Where are we? 2up. Okay, I'm going to put this in my folder so I'm organized. Drag this one into the media pool, and I've got my little 2up here, which you can see is similar to this other one that I've done previously in tutorials. In that one, I've just done a gradient, which is kind of fun too. If you go over to the gradient tool, like that, and I'm going to go, not that. Okay, so I did command click on this box, which is basically highlighted all of the content, but not the whole that we've got in there. And then I can click over here to make my linear, make this color. It's all very like, like the layout of this application is not as nice as Photoshop, as you can see, but it's also free. Okay, so I got my gradient going from a semi-dark blue to a lighter one, and I'm going to go okay, and then I'm basically going to get my drag a line, and I might hold Shift if I want it just to go straight down, and let go, and then I've got that gradient. So that's a little bit nicer. Why don't we run with that one instead? Export as PNG, save, and 2up, drag that on. It's going to say, do I want to replace it? I'm going to replace it. And then over to ATEM. It's kind of manual. As you can see, this is why I like using H2R for graphics and that kind of stuff because it's much more malleable. All right, ATEM, back to Finder, drag this one in there. Now we have it. And yeah, let's cut across. So if I get rid of my face and I cut over, I'm on this other graphic and I'm going to bounce over to this box here. Okay, so I need to set up this box, which I'm going to get to do, what should we use? Let's go, I'm going to be on the left. So I'm going to go to my PTZ camera, which is, I'm just going to, oh, that's behind. Okay, I don't think I can show you my PTZ camera because it's going to be behind the downstream key. So I'm just going to run without that visual for the moment. Okay, but basically what I've got is my PTZ camera number 1, and I'm going to, not that way, I'm going to move my camera position over. So this will be my background shot. And then I'm going to do a key is mainly what I would be doing here. Okay, so under my, again, I'm sorry you can't see this. I'm just going to turn off downstream key for the moment. All right, so I've set myself up here, and I need to bring myself up with something on the right. You would have probably seen this before. So at the moment, I'm using key 1 to make this little box. So let's go to right side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in here, under my Stream Deck, I can go to, I've actually got a preset here, which is basically using this DVE on key 1, and it's pushing it to the right. So it's taking a center crop and pushing it right. So if I hit that, it has now changed my key into the center crop on the right side of that. So that's coming in through the input. PTZ2 is my camera that's being used for this one, but I want to change the camera. So this could be camera source 2. This could be a remote zoom call. Instead, I'm going to bring up my, let's go to, I'm just cycling through here. This is a very old graphic that I've got here. So in my media player 1, so if I go to input, and then instead of PTZ2, I'm going to change my input to media player 1. And that's a graphic of me looking much brighter. I look kind of dark in here, don't I? I've got, I've been using these Aperture's Sidious Link, and I think sometimes the Bluetooth gets, they read each other. So I was changing the background light, and I think that changed the key light. So I think I'm a little bit dark. Let's see if I can bring this up. So going in here, basically what I've got is my iPhone, which gives me another angle, has got this link on it. And I'm going to go into my key light. Oh, it should be good. It could just be the camera settings. Let me have a look. PTZ 60, no, that all looks good. Okay, let's try and not mess up the, okay, that's better. Not too much. I got a lot of glare on me. Okay, I think that's better. Let us go back to Filmic Pro. Put this one over here. Cool. Okay, so now I've got myself talking to a remote guest, and the only thing I need to do is bring on my downstream key. So if I press that and turn that on, that's how you get this like box effect of a graphic over the top. If you want to know what downstream key is, I've built that into my Stream Deck profile application, but if you're not familiar with it, you can actually access that through the app itself. So if you go onto ATEM software control, then you can have your upstream key, which is what the other person is being that I'm talking to remotely. And then the downstream key is where I'm bringing on this graphic here. So if you're looking for the source, then that is, where are we? MP2 is what is being used to bring that on. Cool. All right, just give me a sec. I just want to look at some comments here, see if there's anything related to that, and I'll get rid of my graphics. Ta-da! Got to get rid of my Downstream key, gone. Excellent. All right, I'm back. Let's just have a look at some comments, if I can find them. G'day to Roto. I'll try and say it with my most Australian accent. It has changed a bit over the years. Watching here from Melbourne, and he says, using the downstream key to display my logo, PowerPoint to make the logo export of it in PNG, and then place it in the media pool. So yeah, that is another way that you could do what we're doing here. Is you could use an application like Google Slides or PowerPoint to create that 16:9 frame and then export it as a PNG. And you could also put it background as green if you want to chroma key out that way. But I've done it with a Luma key in the background, so it's actually got that alpha channel that I've cut off. But yeah, there are other ways of doing this. But today I just wanted to show this Photopea one because there's a lot of power there. Yeah. Okay. What's the next one? Let's go to. I'm just going to show you some companion buttons. So as I've built this profile, there's a lot of feedback that comes, which has actually got, if I can bring this up. So for example, this yellow bit around this key here is a PNG. Same with this PGM button here. These are all PNGs that can be controlled in terms of the feedback state, just to give you additional information in terms of what's going on. So what I'm using here is for my row of keys is I can see that key 4 is on, and so the background color is red, which means that I can cut, and it's going to cut between program and preview, but key 4 is not being affected. The reason this graphic is going on and off when I was cutting is because this is being used by key 1, and when it's got this, which I call McDonald's French fries, kind of effect of red and yellow, it's amazing how effective that branding is that I look at that and I'm like, French fries. But what that is telling me is that the background is red, so it's on air, but the outline is yellow, and yellow means that on the next transition, that state is going to change. So at the moment it's on, and in the preview, it's going to change. So when I'm looking up here at the preview, there's no graphic there. So I cut, and this is what was in the preview before, just before I cut. So that just sort of helps me get the most information into a single button, and we do that using PNGs. So for example, if I turn on key 2, you'll notice here, key 2 is not on air. I don't have anything in there. Do I have anything in 3? I do kind of, but I don't really have anything in these ones. But that's what it looks like when it's like on standby. So it would be showing me in the preview, this is what it's going to look like. And then the next time I cut, it's going to move it over. So, all right, so how do we make these buttons? Because it's very useful to be able to have PNGs that sit alongside your dynamic text. So, so that we can get that in there. So we are going to go to Companion, because I love this application. So let's get to here. And if I click on my key button here, you'll see that this is where you would add in a PNG. Now the system says 72 by 58 because that's what it used to be when in these settings, if you had removed the top bar on each button, when you had that enabled, it used to be 72 by 58. But if you remove that top bar, then it's actually 72 by 72, which is, you can get a lot nicer, cleaner action. I'll just uncheck that so you can have a look. So if I uncheck that, that's where you can see, if I go back over here, there's just a lot more going on, you know, like when you see all of the number keys here, it's a lot harder to just focus on the essential information, which is the actual button information. So that's where under settings, I've designed this to remove the top bar. Okay, so we want to create this button here. So I'm going to go back to, and I'm just going to copy this because I don't want to mess up my thing. And I go to my show page because that's what it's for. It's for a show. And now we're going to go over to, and on my, so this is my custom page. So I have all my custom things here. So I can bring myself up very easily. And I'm just going to punch in a bit so you can see me. Okay, so on key here. So if I delete that, nope, it's not showing me. I don't know why it's doing that. Second time today that is not. Let me go to, oh, it's the feedback state, sorry, of course. Forgetting my own button. All right, so there was something in there, so I might actually just copy this again, so I've got a better copy of it. And I'm going to paste it there. Okay, so what's happening with the ATEM is under this feedback section. So remember, you've got your press actions, release actions, and then you've got this feedback state here. I am using a couple of things. One is I'm saying if the upstream key state is on air, then change the background to red. And then I'm also using if the transition selection part of it, which is what's going into the preview, so that's the on next, like what is going to come on next. If that contains key 1 in the background, then change the color of the text and change the PNG to this button here. So this is where if I delete this, you'll notice that that is gone. So without that, I'm not going to have feedback to be able to say like, hey, there's a state that you need to be aware of, which is next time you cut, it's going to be gone. All right, so we need to make a little yellow box. I'm just going to knock together something in Photopea, which is just here. Okay, so let's just save this as a PSD, and then we can close this down. Go new, and they don't really have anything like here, so I'm going to go, this is going to be called a key on air, something like that. Okay, but instead of 1920, we want it to be 72 by 72. All these fun little dog photos have gone. I'm going to make it transparent, and I'm going to create. So now it's a tiny little button, and I'm going to zoom in because so I can see what I'm doing. And you can see like we're getting down to the pixel level here because there's not that many pixels. So I'm going to go basically get an M for marquee, and I'm going to select the box. Actually, probably don't even need to do that. I could just go select all, Command A, select all. And then I'm going to go Command Option T. Nope, okay, it's locked. I need to unlock this layout, Command Option T. I think that's right. No, come on. Okay, no, it's not doing it. Okay, all right, I'm going to turn this around and do it this way. So I'm going to make yellow my color and go Option Yellow to fill it. I'm going to go Command Option T, which is what I was trying to do before with the marquee, and then I'm going to hold down Option Shift, and I'm going to bring this in a bit, maybe about 3 pixels. I think that's enough. Cool. Enter, and then I'm actually going to go Command click over here on this graphic here, and I'm going to delete it because I actually don't need that yellow. But I'm going to go Command Shift I, which is inverse. So that was like, I don't know where to find it. It's somewhere in the menu. Select inverse, Command Shift I. Yep. So now you see I've got this little box around it, and it's all equidistant. So there's like 3 pixels wide, and my color yellow is selected. So if I go Option Delete, I've now got my yellow border, and we're looking like National Geographic over here. Command D, deselect, and that's it. That's basically it. So now I'm going to go File, Export as PNG again. You can drop the if you want to save a little space maybe, but you probably just leave it full. I find it does some weird compression things otherwise. All right, so I'm going to save. Coming down here, on air key, save it to a good spot, and back over to, it was already there, companion, and this is where on this ATEM transition selection for mix effect 1, and I'm going to say if it contains background or key, then change this color to yellow and change the PNG browse, and I'm going to go back to my Finder, drag that on, and boom. Okay. Oh, it's key 1. Okay. So this is one of those tricky things where it actually had key 1 in there. So what I've got in previous versions is I also had to replicate key 1, but make it yellow. Okay. This is going to look a bit different. I'm just going to knock this together because this is not going to be quite the same. So, the reason for that is what I'm using here is this dynamic text, which is this variable, which is for the ATEM Extreme. Use the upstream key 1 input 1 to show me what this is. So this PTZ 1 is actually the label that is coming from over here, under labels, PTZ 1. So I have called my camera 1 input on my ATEM PTZ 1, and that is actually being carried through Companion using this variable. So if I changed my input, so if I go to key 1 input and I did PTZ 2, you'll see how it's changing that on that button. So I can always look at my key 1 button and know, oh, okay, so the input's going to be PTZ 1. So it's just all these visual references to keep it like simple, but as much information as you can on the button. But to do that, what I've done here is, because I want different colors between PTZ 1 and key 1 to be able to see, just so it's clearer in terms of the state. So by default, what I'm using is key 1 is a graphic which just says key 1 in white text. And so when I go back to my thing here, this is not going to line up because it's from another file. But I'm going to go to my text tool and I'm going to go key, come on. I don't know why this text is being funny. Maybe I'm going too fast. Key, huge, 1. I'm going to make this 5 pixels. There we go. I can make this a little bit bigger. Something like that. Make it white. It's like, where did it go? I don't know if it's just like, it should be there. It should be there. Yeah, obviously graphics not the best for this. Someone now is like, wouldn't open Photoshop. Okay, white. Make it yellow. Weird. Make it a tiny bit little book. Let's make it extra light. Make it, maybe it's the font. Okay, this is a terrible font. Key 1. Okay. Wow. Okay, but it's working, so we're going to run with it. Now we're going to go File, Export as PNG. Cool. Down we go. Getting familiar with this process. Key on air. We'll call this version 1 because okay. Then we're going to go back to Safari. Over here, go down here, add a PNG, click Browse, and on air 1, key. Okay, it's terrible graphics, but when I was designing this whole thing, I've got a PSD template where it's got my key 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've just changed that out. So it would this button would always have a white key 1 graphic on it, and then it's got a replica of that key 1, but I've just changed the text color to yellow. So you get the idea in terms of that. So now when I long press this, it's going to go off air. It's taken me off, and it's showing me that the yellow is still selected. So over on my preview, this is what my preview monitor looks like at the moment. I've got my background camera, and then I've got this one, my input 1 camera on there. So that's how we're doing all that. Cool. What next? I think that's about it. Do you have any questions about graphics or things that you want to build in Companion? This is just like a really simple, easy way to knock up some graphics. You know, like you're trying to make a YouTube title, like a YouTube thumbnail or something. Like, actually, I've done a lot of YouTube thumbnails in this, where I'll grab this screenshot and then I'll put a bit of text, or make a, you know, where are we here? Like this section. No, I can't even do this. Like this section will be like a solid color, and it's got the text and stuff like that. So this is just an easy way to do that. If you want it, and from any computer really with an internet connection, you can just kind of throw that together. Yeah, that's the way to do that. The other button that I really like for what I've got here is cut to. This one. Oop. Bring it up square. I was bringing it up not the right way before. Okay, so these buttons for my main input switching are dynamic text, so I can see cameras 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the camera inputs, media 1 and 2. But then here I've got, you'll see MV very, very small in there. Let's see if I can go in here. Oh, that's the full extent of the PTZ lens. Okay, so I've got a very small graphic just saying MV, but it's sort of faded out so that you can just know what's there. And then below that is MP1 is saying program. So what this is actually doing is, if I long press, this is changing the source on auxiliary 1. And auxiliary 1 I have routed into this auto cue that I'm looking at, so that I can see what's going on in front of me. So for the most part, this is where I keep my auto cue screen on program, just as a confidence, as like, remember like a couple of minutes ago when I was, you know, explaining the whole process to you, and then went, oh, actually, I'm looking at what I'm doing, but you guys are not seeing that because it's not on program. So part of having program like front and center is like, I'm looking at the camera, but I can also just in the back of my mind, I know what's on. So, you know, am I sending out the right thing? But what I can do, and you won't be able to see this necessarily, but if I hold down one of these other sources, I can send any camera input or either multi-view program or the 8 camera inputs into the auto cue. So the use case there is if I want to read something off a screen. So like I've got my Mac screen here, but then maybe I want to actually have that on the auto cue, so I can like read a comment, but not be looking over here while I read a comment. I can read a comment straight ahead. So I would hold down this button, and then now what it's switched me to, so like what you're seeing on program is the same thing as always, but I'm seeing a copy of the screen. And so if I go to here, I can look at the comments and scroll through. Now it is a little bit smaller when I'm trying to see the actual comment, and we can bring up things like Bill saying, surely, and okay, I got to go back to my program because I can't read it otherwise. Bill saying, surely you're better off using H2R for lower thirds, as you can change text on the fly. I do agree. I think like that's the way that I do that. I was just showing that as an option if people need something really simple, or maybe you need a template like a graphic, like I was showing with like the boxes, you need some more graphical things, or maybe you need like an actual small logo type stuff, and you just want that to sit up in the corner. You could use your downstream key to just keep that bug in the top corner for the whole time. And the advantage of that is that it's all done internally within the ATEM, so it's not plugging in any other source to get that. It's like it's already in your setup, and you're not having to add things in terms of connections to it. Cool. Bill, yes, the product or site is photopea.com. I have no affiliation with them. I don't know who they are. I just know it exists. I honestly don't know how it exists, because it seems like a direct ripoff of Photoshop on the web. But it's pretty cool for this kind of stuff. If you just want to like put together a YouTube thumbnail or create some, little graphics without having to have the whole Adobe suite when you don't use it every day. So yeah, like I was saying at the beginning, this is where I'm like, all my pro video stuff is Resolve, and my pro photo stuff is Capture One, and I can do enough in Capture One for retouching for what I do with headshots and that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you need to throw together some graphics with some text, obviously some of those graphic fonts weren't great, so your mileage may vary. Yeah. Used that method for a bug, so done with leaving ATEM. Use that method for a bug, so done with leaving ATEM. Yeah, done. Well, sorry, I'm not quite sure if you're saying you're done with leaving the ATEM, or you did it with leaving the ATEM. Okay, there we go. Sorry, without leaving the ATEM. Yeah, that is the advantage of that you can, as I was saying before, you don't have to plug in any extra thing. Because it's like every time you do something, like every time you add more connections, like it's just, somewhere down the line, you're going to pay the penalty for that in time. Like even today, I just, like, because I'd done a shoot last week, and then I realized like a lot of my lights weren't set up, and so I spent like an hour running around to like get all these lights in place. And if I'm, I've got to set up this auto cue again because we were using that last week, and so it's just like, I don't know, the more gear that you have, the more time it's going to take you to set that up. All right, I'm just going to go back to some comments here. IT Never Gets Old says, good morning. Good morning to you as well. And John, good to have you here. I will, I got your email. I'll respond to that. I probably need to sort of read through what you're experiencing and work that out. And Mohammed, do you use the same computer you're streaming on to create graphics? Yes. The only computer I'm using at the moment is my MacBook Pro 16-inch M1 Max. I think that's right. Which I did a previous episode on, so you can go back and look at that if you want to get more detail on like using that particular M1 with live streaming context. And it's been powerful enough that, as I was showing in that, I've got 2 Thunderbolt connections that's running everything. So I've got one Thunderbolt connection going to a dock that's running 2 screens on either side of me. Let's go to this one. Okay, this is sort of what it looks like. So I've got Thunderbolts running these 2 screens, and then I've got a copy of those 2 screens on a second Thunderbolt, which is being fed into the ATEM, so that I can, as I'm looking at a screen, I can just like push that across so that you guys can see what I'm working on. So over here I'm sort of managing the back end of that and my notes on this side, which otherwise would be like VLC if I'm playing something back. And on this side, I'm looking at H2R and comments and stuff as that comes in. So that's all on the one computer. I guess technically I am running another computer, which is I've got a Raspberry Pi back here, and that's what's doing the H2R graphics. And as I've mentioned in previous streams, the Pi doesn't render H2R's network stream properly, which is sometimes where there's a little cutout in the graphics. But I think that's going to get better over time with some updates. But that's my ideal in terms of having that. So for example, PTZ 2, let's go to the multi-view and put that on to screen. Yeah, so oh, you can't quite see that, can you? So we've got, this is getting a bit messy down here, but you'll see down here, this green box here is basically input 8, which is the Raspberry Pi, which is feeding that graphic on. So you can see this graphic, if I take that off, let me take that off now, you'll see it's sliding off. So that's what I'm using to key on that graphic. So technically I am using 2 computers, I guess. Yeah, but mostly just the Mac. Yeah. Yes, I did see that John has a new H2R Stinger, which looks cool. Haven't got to try that out yet, but I think that's be like a fast way of doing a Stinger, which is, yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like the philosophy of H2R is that it's simple and it's easy to like once you've got it connected, you can update graphics very easily and it's very dynamic. Whereas what I was showing you with that kind of like pulling up, you know, a graphic that you've exported is not as fast. Having said that, if you're working for a client and they've got a very specific branding package and they want a certain look on the lower third, then, and also if you're creating a program where it's all preset, maybe you're doing a panel of like 5 or 6 people and ahead of time you know all those names, so you could output 6 of those lower thirds, and then in Companion you could basically assign those media pool stills to a button, so when you cut to a person you could basically push that graphic on and pull it off. So that's something that between Companion and the ATEM you could automate to some degree on the Stream Deck so that it's easier to pull on and off. Cool. Where are we? Bill, one problem I have with the MacBook Pro M1 Max is that I cannot run vMix on it. I sometimes like to use vMix with the ATEM, H2R, and all the rest. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the main reason that I haven't gotten into vMix is just because it doesn't, as far as I'm aware, there's no Mac version. And I'm not going to go learn Windows because I don't know, it's a whole new operating system and I'm very familiar with Macs and, you know, it's just fast. It's like, I don't want to get stuck. And it happens sometimes actually, like there's sometimes where I'll be on a shoot and the client has a Windows laptop and then, you know, you're trying to dig deep down into the settings in the preferences and doing something with the displays. And I just, it's, you know, I know some of it, but not enough to be like in a pinch, just to be like, oh yeah, just change that to that. And then away we go. So I just want to sort of stick with one thing. Yeah. Bill also says, thank you for the comments, Bill. You have a hub attached to your MacBook Pro M1 Max with 4 HDMI out to the ATEM and then another one for H2R. Yeah, tell me what that hub is. That sounds great. If you can get them all, I'm trying to think if you can get what that hub would be that would do 4 HDMI, because some of them are sort of a double up on Mac from what I understand, or maybe that's a USB-C thing. I think Thunderbolt has that's why I have Thunderbolt things here, because it's just you can push a lot more display data than USB-C. I think has more limitations. Yeah, but hubs are great. You know, the challenge always is distance between cables. Like what I've got here in my setup. Let me see if I can pull up the view desk. Yeah, I can do that. Cool. Let me get rid of the social. Yes. Okay. So what I've got here on my setup is, I just like, I mean, go back to this one. Repo. Okay. There we go. what I like in my live streaming is like I've got a microphone up here and I've got an in-ear monitor. So in terms of presentation and how it looks, I just personally, maybe because I do a lot of video production, so I'm used to this kind of interview type setup, but I like the look of just seeing me and not having like a microphone boom arm in here. Like if I'm, I don't think that's my style. So I have a 416 shotgun microphone overhead, and I'm able to hear what's going on in my ear if I'm playing back some audio. And then in terms of computers, like I've got all that, but the screens are kind of pushed a bit further back so that in terms of what's in the shot is a bit more simple. And I think over the weeks, like I'm still working on this this lighting, and it is always changing to some degree. I want to probably do a bit more with this black type stuff. It's just looking at myself doing like bird actions. But I like that it's more, I like creating a look that's more personable than you just kind of sitting across the desk from someone. So to do that, that's where I've got the Stream Decks don't have their, the stand things. So they're sitting flat just so you can see body and it's a little more personal. And then I've got my keyboard, which is completely flat. So there's just a lot of space. And then the monitor's back, and my computer is actually just sitting under here with the screen closed. So it's just at the moment just running clamshell. And then I've got my ATEM like sitting all the way back here, which is what I was going to show you, which was, so it's like, I can't even, maybe I can, no, I can't even reach the ATEM. Like that's how far it is away from me, because I don't do anything with the ATEM. And I'm in the process of building a rack, which is going to have the ATEM in it back to front. So the connections are sticking out the back, but you can't access the buttons. Because I have, I don't know, I'm sort of in two minds of like, it's nice to have that fail safe of being able to hit the buttons, but I've never once switched on that actual panel. Like every job that I've done has been on the Stream Deck. I think if I wasn't on the Stream Deck, I'd probably be a bit lost, because there's like a bunch of other things I can execute at the same time, as well as that, like changing cameras, audio, all that kind of stuff. So the original question, what was that? It was something about we're getting back to cables. So with the cables, it's always interesting because you're trying to design for distance, and probably, for me at least, is two setups. One is when I'm here and I can control the space, I like having this setup where there's not something going on. Like I don't have like a mountain of gear here, and I can get the ATEM out of the way. But it means that under the desk, I've got a bit of a snake happening. So I've got the computer here, which is close to the keyboard. If I needed to, I could plug in, I'm just charging my iPod at the moment, headphones or whatever, but I could use that lightning bolt to just like either recharge the, mouse pad or whatever, or if the Bluetooth is playing up, I could click that in. This has my sort of failback there. But yeah, with Thunderbolt, you've only got probably the most like 6 feet if you get an active cable, which is probably like $60. So you need to be within 60 feet from your computer to some sort of hub that is going to be going to the ATEM. So the way I've designed it is that I have my computer here, because this is where I do my editing and general video calls and that kind of stuff. And then I have my rack type stuff out of the way. And then when I go to a job, that's where I'm using a different hub, and the computer is sitting a lot closer to the actual rack that I'm using with the ATEM Extreme. So yeah, that's probably a roundabout way to say like it's just interesting, like being able to accommodate both scenarios where the distance between your computer and your ATEM is kind of what I was getting at. Tim, it looks like Tim Burton to me. T-Burr 202, 2002. How are you displaying the running time on your Stream Deck button in Companion, i.e. stream time or VLC media, playtime, etc.? This is a good question, and this is one of the reasons that I love Companion is that you can have all that info at your fingertips. So let's get rid of this, and I'm just going to go to, what are we looking at? Maybe we'll come down here. So what he's saying is, and maybe I'll even come in here, on my home page here, I've got these buttons are showing me, it's red to show that it's streaming and it's recording. These are also buttons where if I hit this, I go to the menu. So, you know, I'm not actually, if I long press this, I'm stopping the stream, not that one. If I long press this one, I'm stopping the stream. But I can actually glance at this one. Harder here. 121 is how long I've been streaming for, and I've been recording for an hour, which is probably about time to wrap things up. And so it gives me the confidence that it's red, meaning that it is being recorded and streamed, and then also the length. And then I've also got a clock, so at a glance I can, you know, if I'm looking around, I mean, I probably use the Mac one here mostly in terms of it's just gone 12:01. But yeah, I can see the clock here under my button here, if you, because the clock button doesn't really do anything, so I wanted to build a function into it because it's trying to pack in the most stuff that you can onto a single page so that you're not flipping through pages trying to find things when you're trying to execute things. But at the moment, these input keys do preview, but if I hit the clock button, it actually changes it over to red. And so now I will hard cut to like an actual, whatever this thing is, you know, 3, input 2, input 1. So, and then I hit it again and I'll go back to preview. So I can, you know, if I'm changing this, it'll, where are we? Go to like this one and then back, that kind of thing. Yeah, so, and what else have we got? The Q button. So if I'm playing VLC, let me just see if this is, nope, we're not playing VLC. Okay, I do have VLC somewhere here. I'm just going to mute it because the audio might come through otherwise. But that's where this button here, so let's bring up VLC and cut across. So this is VLC at the moment. So if I hit play, can you see that? Yes, I think you can. My screen's a bit clipped. But essentially it's showing me the time remaining, so 18, 17, 16. And if I go to VLC, it's much bigger here, so I can see the countdown. So it just gives me the, you know, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 4, 3, and then maybe I want to like auto across to transition out or something. So having all that feedback is very essential to the show, and all of that is on the one page, and it's like built into all of those things. So how do we do that? It's basically under variables. So let's go back to this one. And I'm just going to bring myself up. So under variables, under buttons, under variables here is where, so I'm just going to pause VLC because it's playing in my eyeline. Okay, so we've got custom variables, which is an internal one. So for example, VLC, this will show a list of what is the current status. So for example, let me see what we got. What do we have? 22 seconds. So this one, like playing time left, 22. You'll see on this Q button here saying 22 is the number here. So if I hit, I can hold down Shift and hit play. So this variable is counting down here, and it's showing me 14 seconds, that kind of stuff. So basically what you do is you find the variable that you want, and then you go copy. It's copied to clipboard, and then you would click on the button, and you would paste that. I'm just going to make some space here. Paste that in, and you'll see it pops up. ext-VLC, that's my module for the VLC, and then the R_SS is like remaining seconds. So as I've got a duplicate of that here on this button because I got two of them because I got that in there already. So same sort of thing with, if we go over to, just create a new button. If we go, you find them by going dollars and then parentheses, and this will pop up, and you can just scroll through all of these variables, but you might want to do internal, and if you want to limit this list a bit, and so you could go internal time of day, which is time_HMS, and so now you'll see this is brought up 12:05:39. What I did on this button here, because I wanted to clean that up a bit, because this was sort of hanging off the end, and I wanted it just as big as possible, because when you're glancing down at a board, particularly if you're presenting, like it's probably not so bad if you're just like running a show and you can actually like look down at the button. But if you're glancing down, you want to be able to see the text as big as possible. So rather than like if I made this size, what's that, 18, it'll fit on the line, and maybe some people like reading it that way, but I wanted to do something where I go dollars internal, and then time of day, you can actually separate it into hours, minutes, seconds. So rather than the whole time, I'm just going to go like that. I'm going to copy that. And I was going semicolon. I'm going to paste this again, and I had minutes. And then I did, I think it was, yeah, I put a new line, which is backslash /n. And I'm going to paste that again, and then I'm going minutes, seconds, like that. So now you have this readout, which I can make a bit bigger. How big can I make that? I can make that about 30 points. And then I quite like this sort of layout just because then I can glance down and see the top time, which is 12:07, which gives me a rough kind of like, okay, it's 7 minutes past 12. Or if the seconds were really important, like I'm counting down to the top of the hour, you know, so maybe it's like 11:59 and 53 seconds, and I can sort of actually count those actual seconds. So yeah, that's all in there under variables. If you, each module that you've installed is going to have different variables. So like the Canon PTZ ones, this is actually showing me like the model number, and it'll show me the exposure values and the white balance and what preset I'm on, all that kind of stuff. So these are all variable scripts that we place into the text fields, and then it shows you what's being updated in there. See if there's any other bits there that were relevant, like H2R. So for example, this graphic is going to pull out like 11 o'clock was the starting time, and it's going to show me what the time is that we're counting down to. And yeah, so it's basically, you get the idea. That's sort of where you can pull from. Okay, any other comments before we wrap up? A couple more comments in here. Sorry, I got, yeah, some good comments in here. Where are we? It was here and then it went away. Bill, there we go. Bill, do I use mix effect at all? I have a little bit. Not much. Like I do have it, and I do use it, and I do plan on incorporating stuff, and I have a page where I've, in the super source, I've kind of set that aside to build in more mix effect, sorry, more super source previews. But pretty much everything that I have built, and just, I don't know, like the physicality of having buttons in front of me, I like that much more than an iPad. So yeah, for what I've done, I really enjoyed having Stream Decks in front of me. But you know, Mixfec is a great app and it's very powerful, and there's a ton of stuff that you can do with it. And Adam's done a fantastic job in that, just not just in building it, but like his involvement with the community and being available for feedback and updates and that kind of stuff. So he's doing a phenomenal job with that. I have under, where is it? So in my like preset layout, I've got, I wonder if I've actually done anything with this. It's not going to run actually because I don't have it connected. That could be another episode, I think, which is like using mix effect with SuperSource. So for me, the main gap in what Companion can do or can't do has been animating SuperSource. So within Companion, you can actually bring up SuperSource. So I have some that are incomplete here under, where are we here? So what's this, page 17? I've got some SuperSource ones. Let's go over to, let's put SuperSource on. This is going to be a bit of a mess. I have not designed this at all. But you'll see if I go to SuperSource, then I can change this layout. So I could get like a 2 up or a 3 up or a 4 up if you need that. And what else have I got? I've got things that I haven't actually built these graphics for. So this is what I'm going to do in Photopea. I'm going to be going in and finishing off these graphics because I've got some that are just like I've built the command behind it, but I haven't finished designing the label of what it looks like. So yeah, you can do all of that within Companion, but you'll notice here all of this is cutting. So you will either, just say you're on this view and then you want to cut to a 4 up, it's going to be a hard cut. Whereas if you have mix effect connected, that's where when you press these buttons, it's going to do a, you know, I don't know, 10 frame transition between them. So you just get a bit sort of smoother effect. The reason I haven't done that is like I usually have to, like, I think that's kind of like that comment before about just the graphics and, you know, sending it in through something else, which is that it's kind of, it's another thing to connect, you know, and it's another thing to manage and run. And if you are a one-man band like I am at the moment, you know, where I'm responsible for how the lighting is and the sound and all this kind of stuff, then the nature of connecting another app to just get a nice little transition is like, for what I'm doing here, like I might do it at some point. I think I've done it occasionally for shows where we've needed to do that, but a lot of what I've done I've achieved through keying and sort of cuts and auto transitions. So, but that is there if you do want to do that, or if you need something where you can have a bit more control over that to design things in terms of like there's like a PowerPoint presentation type thing, or like a 2-up thing that's obviously the wrong background in there. It's got the computer coming through, or maybe you want to do like a video chat where you're talking about some B-roll, that kind of stuff. So I've built all of these looks into my Companion thing, and you can adjust them very easily yourself, which is basically a button looks like this. Let's go 4 up. They're all kind of the same, just their margin, they're different parameters. So it's basically going SuperSource. Let me just get back to a view that will make more sense for you. Okay. So this is saying SuperSource set box enabled. So I'm going box 1 on air, box 2 on air. So I'm turning on all the boxes with each press. And then I'm saying, or like for example, if I had a 2-up, I'm saying box 1 and box 2 are on air, and then box 3 and 4 are off. But so I've basically pre-built this kind of like script that is going to trigger things in a certain way and either turn it on or off or change the sizes. So, so the first 4 commands are turning the boxes on or off, and then the next 4 are like box 1 is saying set the size, so it's like the zoom size of it, to 1, which would be like full size, and then set the center point of X and Y to, so Y is 0 and then X is -8. So effectively what that is doing is pushing that across to the left, and then there's no crop on the top or the bottom, but the left and the right have been cropped. So you've got like 16 is kind of like a full width, and so 8 is like half. And box 2, same sort of thing, but I've moved it 8 the other way, and I've cropped it as well. So then if I jump down to 4 up here, you'll see the same sort of thing of like I've turned 4 boxes on, and I've set these parameters, you know, -12 this time, and I've changed the crop left to right. Same thing with all these things. So I've cropped all these little boxes, and it looks like, let's have a look. If we press the box 2, box 3, box 4, that kind of stuff. So it's just changing that. So you can, if you are trying to pre-build something for a show, you can, within Companion, basically grab this. I would copy this. I would go back to page 3, and I would just paste it in somewhere. So I would use this as a base. So I would go, okay, I know I want to do a 2-up. This is not actually changing any inputs or that kind of stuff. It's just setting up the boxes. And then I would go down here and I would add on like box, set super source, box source. Box 1, I want it to be PTZ 1. Box source, PTZ of box 2 is going to be PTZ 2. Yeah, so this is going to be my face, and it's going to be the overhead view of the camera because that's the inputs that I've got. And I also want to go, yeah, maybe I'll just put like program. So I'm going to set the program input. So every time I press this button, I just want it to cut straight there. So I'm not doing any like preview setup and then cutting across. I'm just changing the background layer. So it's actually going to keep this little circle, and it's going to keep the graphics. But I'm going to set the preview. Sorry, the program input is going to change to down here, super source. So, so for example, like I pre-built this. So if I change this button, okay, let's go back here, and I'm going to go to my show. So this was the button here. Let's see if this works. So I press the button, and now I have a 2-up. So that's the sort of stuff that you can do in Companion to not have to think about the 3-step process of like, okay, this layout plus like that camera onto that one, and this one onto that one, and this size and these graphics, you know. So you could just keep on going and adding on things to that. So maybe you want to, you know, with this 2-box one, maybe you want to add in the downstream key, since we're set input, what is it called? Input, which is the downstream key, set the input of key, what do we got here? I'm going to go key 2 is going to be MP2, and MP2K, set inputs, and downstream key set on air. I know you can't quite see what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to on air. Maybe I can pull this up for you. So I've just added in, so on top of all my like create a super source type thing, I'm saying put the super source to air, and also, wait, what have I got here? Yeah, I'm going to put a box around it. So I think that's right. Key 2, downstream key. Okay, so my downstream key is going to be filled with the media player, which I have the right graphic in there, but maybe we wanted to add in a graphic. Stills, what do you call it? Still? No, media pool. What is it? ATEM, let me just have a look. Media, what do we call this? Media player set source. Okay. All right, so media player source, I'm going to be media player 2. I want it to put on my 2-up as well. So these are all, I'd probably like change the order. So I've got setting that, and then doing this super source at the end. Maybe it doesn't really matter. All this stuff is going to go right away. Okay, so again, I'm just going to click it over here because I have that up. So if I hold down Shift and then click, it's going to run that. So let's see if that works now. Boom. Okay, so that's an example of using a button that's in the profile, or pre-building a template of like, this is my 2-up layout, but then I want to copy that button to a custom show page where I'm going to add things onto it. So specifically for this show, I want to be able to bring up this graphic window, have my titles there so I know who the person is, and then I'm going to cut to those 2 sources. So now I can, I can cut away to anything else. I could, get rid of the graphic, and I could get rid of, let's get rid of the social comment. So we're just, we're just going on with the show. And then at some point I want to be like, oh, now let's cut to the guest. And so I'm going to go cut back, and then there I am. It looked like the same thing, but so that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Let's see if I can get this. Oh. So remember this thing I built last week, which is my safety button. The safety button doesn't have a turn off downstream key, so that's. But because I don't use a downstream key all that much. Like if I am going to do a little bug in the corner or something, I do use H2R for that. All right, let's see any last minute things here. Okay, whole bunch of questions. Cool. What do we got? Mohammed. I don't know if you already answered this, but do you sometimes find yourself creating graphics on the fly? Depends on the show. If it's like a show for a client, it would be very specific, like, send me a brand package before, and we'd put together something, and it would be tested, and all of any sort of specific cues would be built into that show page that I had before. But for this kind of stuff, in terms of just, like a weekly live stream, H2R is great because it's just malleable. I don't have to go create graphics or think about something. I can just input it and it's all dynamic. So that's what I would do. Would you say Martin says, would you say having a dedicated studio space away from the home made you more productive? Yeah, so last year, I've always had an office, but it's been more of like a WeWork desk type thing. But now I've got this like mini studio space, which I've been able to, there's storage space back here in terms of like a rack that goes up to the wall. And so all the camera gear and all that kind of stuff can be put away. And then I've got a lighting rig, and I've showed this on other episodes. And that has meant that in my dedication to run a live stream once a week for this year, and we'll see how we go. I've been consistent so far. But it means that, because I don't want it to be stressful too. Like I don't want to be like, oh my God, it's a massive production to pull this off. And last year, so in my apartment, I've got like a seamless, so I can do like some photo shoots there, and we've got really good light. But that means bringing all of that camera gear home and setting up, and like the whole place just becomes a production studio. Whereas this is like up in the rig, out of the way, so I can do my work during the week in terms of client calls like this, which is kind of fun when you jump on in a mid shot rather than the MCU. And I can, it's been a lot to be able to and just test things out too. Like I can, like the fact that these graphics aren't quite working with the Pi, like I wouldn't use that for a client's show, but I just want to keep testing that and sort of find a way to make it run smoother and that kind of stuff. So the studio space has definitely helped a lot in that. He also likes that I'm creating while you're streaming. So cool. You're creating. That's good. I hope you're using, making some graphics or just thinking about different ways of approaching your live stream, because there's a ton of stuff that you can do in there to just clean up your cues and that kind of thing. What else we got? Yeah, I don't like fanboys, but I like gear that works. Like I've just bought a I like gear that's like nice to use and it feels good and it just kind of is not like an ugly thing that you don't want to deal with all the time. In the next couple of weeks, I'm building out a rack for the ATEM Extreme, and I've got a case that's only a 4U rack thing, so it's smallish, but you know, I just wanted to find something that is that I actually enjoy carrying to a shoot. You know, like I think if you're carting a huge thing, and so the same thing with computers. Like I want to be in a computing environment where I feel like everything's seamless. Like when I got the new MacBook, because I got the new iPhone last year and then I got the MacBook, and actually switched over to Safari because the keychain access and all that kind of stuff just runs seamlessly. Previously I was using Chrome, so yeah, I like that. But I don't know, you know, I'm not going to jump on the fanboy wagon too much, but obviously I do like Apple's products. They're great. Cool. Bill, back to the hub comment before, Targus for HDMI, but I like that you have both this and my ATEM out of reach. I just need a Thunderbolt cable to the hub and to use Stream Deck's control the lot. Yeah, I feel like there's a ton of money that I spend on random little things like I've got two 6-foot Thunderbolt cables, which are, you know, $60, $70 each, just to get like a 6-foot cable. So that sort of stuff adds up over time, but I wanted to have cabling and hubs and all that kind of stuff that just gives me flexibility. So I've actually got a pretty clean setup here. Like this desk is on wheels. I can move it against the wall. I can move it back out of the way. I've got backdrops that go down. And so I can do a shoot and I don't have to worry about rewiring. And I've just, you know, if I need to bring my laptop out onto the desk for something, like maybe there's been times where I've had trouble with the Extremes webcam out. You know, for some reason it was stuttering and not showing up, and I'm like, got to jump on a call with a client. And so I'm like, hi, you know, and I'm there on FaceTime, you know, rather than the fancy cameras and stuff. But you've just got to like build something in a way that it has flexibility and you don't get stuck into a corner of that kind of thing. So that's what I've tried to do there. Where is it? Let's jump over this one because I just mentioned background support. What do you use to support your pull-down paper backgrounds? I have the, let's go to B&H. Let's go shopping. It's just impact stuff. So it's not like, I mean, it does the job, you know, and it's not super expensive. What's that called? Impact background roller or something. I can't find it now. Impact roller? Chain? Impact. Okay, I think this is it. Which I got to get rid of my DSK, and here we go. Okay, so I have these Vary drives. There's a Manfrotto version, I think somewhere in there, and these are like the Vary poles that go horizontally is what I've got them, and then I've got the single versions of this, so not the 3 version, but the just individual ones that I've screwed into wood at the top. I should do something on that because I actually really like what I've done there, which is I've got a paperweight that I made from Home Depot, which is just using some trimming board and some adhesive magnetic tape, like a roll of that, and it just sort of sticks together. Because I was trying to find background weights for the drop-down paper, and they weren't good. Like I've got one at home, and it's very difficult to clamp on the paper, and it's just, you know, So these ones, I actually built one that is a background weight so that it just comes down and it looks clean and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've got the chain. So they've got a plastic one and they've got a metal chain, and I bought all the metal chains. But then in this shot, I didn't want to. They would hang down here like to about here, and it just looked a little kind of like it's already pretty dark back there, so I didn't want to get to like dungeony chains and bondage stuff, or so I wanted that out of shot, and so I actually ended up cutting that chain, which was bending it to open it, and that was very difficult. It took me like an hour just to like shorten that chain length. And then the other problem that I found is when I have the paper rolled all the way out. So I think like before you saw at the very start here. Yeah, so here's an example of that. So when I have this rolled out and then I'm standing here, it actually there's not much space there. So it's difficult to kind of, like when I'm standing here, I can pull the chain and that's fine. But if I've got to stand back here and then reach over and pull that's where I do need a bit more length in the chain. So that was, one of the challenges that I faced. But I just wanted that to hang, and I didn't want to have to like string this up and continually change that. So it is, most of what I do is just like dropping this down to as a background, not as like a full seamless. So for shoots where we do a full seamless and pull it out, then I just sort of, I deal with that, and it's not too bad. But this is the kind of setup that I've got here. Like I said, I've got this this shelf here, and then under that I've got, so it's wood, and then these brackets are going up into there. I think you can see that there. And then there's the very chains that are in there, and this is the Home Depot wood type stuff that is just clamped either side using magnetic adhesive tape, and I don't know, it just looks kind of neat and clean and easy to pull it down and sort of change it up. So that's what I've been doing with that. I need to do a little more like demo of that because it's been a bit of a build out, and it's taken a couple of weeks to get that all going. Okay, more comments. I probably have to wrap up soon because I feel like going to an hour and a half is a long time. I don't think John's on today. I think it's his off week, but I will definitely stop before his time begins. Sandor, hello from Hungary. Good to have you here. Glad you could join. A little kudos from John. Appreciate this. He said, as he said many times in the past, David's app is the best out there at this moment in time. In my honest opinion, it's truly a TV studio in a box. Yeah, I think it is great, with the caveat that it is open source, free software, so it's free for anyone to download the software, and there's a whole community there that has done extensive work, and so I've really sort of been designing and building off the back of that. So I just want to acknowledge that there's a ton of people who are doing a lot of coding and work to make that possible. And then in terms of what I've done is coming in and just sort of designing the profile. It's kind of like building a LUT, I guess, which is like if you want to save yourself all of the time of thinking about the layout of the execution in terms of the switching buttons and all that kind of stuff, then that's where I've got a profile. And on my website, I've got a free version, which is like a one-page switcher panel if you just want to get up and started, and it will give you a couple of modules to think about in terms of H2R and VLC playback. So you can kind of, if you haven't used it before, you can just kind of download that, follow the instructions, and get up with a one page and then build your own stuff on the back of there. Or if you want something that's very extensive, like I basically use all 99 pages that are available in Companion, and if there were more pages, I would use them, but I don't know, I should ask them if they could extend that, because I do find myself deleting things to add in other stuff. I don't know if that would like bog it down if it gets too big, maybe. But there's a lot of amazing stuff there, and even beyond like the stuff that I've shown you, there's like hundreds of modules in there to control audio gear and lighting and network stuff, and it's just like there's so much stuff in there that can probably be a bit overwhelming to know like what you need to look for, but it's probably more just approach it as like, what is your use case, what do you need, and then you know, make it, just find what you need to get done without having to feel like you have to tackle the whole app. Bill's follow-up comment was a chat within here. Mix Effect is not so much of a total studio in a box, but more a comprehensive set of tools for the ATEM. Yeah, I do think Mix Effect is great. It's like you can do everything on that you can do more on that than you could do in Blackmagic's software. So it's worth checking out if you haven't done already. It's only like $50 from the App Store, well worth it. So I recommend you go grab that. It's a very useful tool to have on hand. Andrew, how do you do different font sizes in the companion buttons? Very simply, you just click on a button, and then you'll have the font size here. So if I wanted to make it real big, it obviously runs off the button. I could also make it auto, and it'll just resize it. But I kind of like, I think in terms of visual design, it's really important for consistency. And so that's where I've got, you know, like this button, what's it, 18? So I'm going to make this one 18. And also from a design point of view, I've made everything all caps because I think it's easier to read when everything's, you know, like this iPhone button is obviously, that's the text label that's coming through from Blackmagic, and I've used it for this because it kind of makes sense. But you know, H2R2, like that's this, yeah, just kind of like all caps for the layout. The other thing that you can do is, which I mentioned before, is under feedback. You can go like, for example, just say, this is probably a dumb example, program. So you could set, there's a whole bunch of different feedback. So for example, if I wanted to say that when this, whatever source is on program, so I've got input 7 on at the moment, which is this, it's labeled wrongly, but it's VLC. See how that went red? So I did input 6, then it's nothing but VLC, like that. So this is where you can actually go in here and you could click on this box and go font size, and you could change that to be something bigger, so that when I'll go back here, so this is normal, so it just says input 6, it would look like this. If I switched over to input 7, it would change the parameters, so the font gets bigger, the background changes to red. So that's one way to use font sizes beyond just that standard default up the top here. But sorry, I think that was blocked on the graphic there. Let me see if I can. It might have been blocked there. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so you click under here, and if I get rid of this, you would go font size, and you can make it bigger. So yeah, that's how, and then changing whichever input. So if it was on 6, then it wouldn't be active. But if I changed it to, this is what is on air at the moment. Yeah, that's kind of the way it works there. So I'm just going to delete that so I don't get mixed up. Okay. What else we got? Bill also got the companion app from DJF, that's myself, and also one from Mix Effect. The idea would be DJF with more Mix Effect included. Yeah, I might play with that. I think it's just like, it's always just a matter of time. Like, it's like all the regular stuff, all the job stuff, and then sort of all this programming stuff can just sort of take time. Yeah. What do we got here? Stream's current bitrate is lower. I know a lot of people have had that. I don't know if that's... Anyway, we'll see how we go. Hopefully it's all good. Okay. What else we got? Hans from Holland wants to say thank you for the high quality of the live streams. and sorry, he couldn't make it here earlier. Well, each week at 11 a.m. Eastern is when I'm going to be live, unless there's something like, I don't know, a public holiday or I'm traveling or something like that, but I'll try and plan that ahead of time. But the goal is one live stream a week. Most often will be 11 a.m. so that it's ahead of John's stream and there's a bit of time in between so that you can go off and watch John's one after that and we're not competing for the same time zone. His question is, using just one HDMI input on the ATEM and using H2R and VLC, how is it switching between Chroma, H2R, and VLC full screen dealt with? So in my early videos of like 2020, this is the route that I went because I was using ATEM Mini Pro, which only had 4 inputs. And so suddenly if you're using up 2 inputs, you know, then you've only got 2 inputs of cameras and you're kind of running it out. So to maximize the input, I was running H2R input on 4 and also VLC on 4. And while you can do that, I feel like in practice for people to implement that, I was just having a lot of people in terms of like going into the max settings and changing that. And then even like when you're live, it's another thing where you've got to have Vicrio open and that's got to be talking and connecting. And there's a lot more points of failure in it. And so now that I've got the Extreme, and I appreciate that not everyone has the Extreme, maybe you've only got 4 inputs, a more robust solution was to separate that out. And so the way that I've set that up is on okay, so on page 29 is H2R, which yes is still version 1, and I need to get in there and update that. It's on the list of things to do. But this is saying load Chroma onto key for HDMI 8. So I'm using the key input number 4, and I'm using the 8th input. If you're running the ATEM Mini Pro, that's going to be on page, I don't remember exactly, 70 or something. Is it over here? Where are we? This is not plugged in at the moment, but it'll look like this. So key 1, HDMI 4. So with the ATEM Mini Pro, it's using up the 4th input and it is occupying the only key that's on the ATEM Mini Pro. And likewise on VLC, it's going to input, this is all disconnected so you can't really see this, but it's going to, this would be number 3 and this would be number 4. So let me just go back to my Extreme, which is connected. So just to give you an idea of labels, maybe I'll go in here, labels, I've got VLC, so I'm just going to call this 7788. So just going to rename my labels here so it's clearer. You'll see that this is where this is reflected, this come through. So now this is saying, so basically, if you're using VLC, you can use it either on input 7 or on input 8, or you could run 2 of them. Or if you are using H2R, H2R is now going to occupy input 8, in which case you would run VLC through these commands on input 7. So that's kind of the breakdown of how I've gone around to just to sort of separate that out, because it's just a lot safer rather than the other way was you couldn't do it on air because it would jump around and flicker. So you had to, if you're playing a VLC thing and then you wanted to bring on a graphic, you would have to like come back to camera in the preview, hit the trigger button, which would switch it around, and then you'd be able to put the chroma keyed graphic across like I've got now. So it's just it's a lot more moving parts, and I think this is safer. So that's my long-winded answer to that. So yeah. Oh, just a comment here. Best to learn the logic of building your own buttons. Yeah, so you can use like all of this stuff that I've built. You can take that and modify it. You know, whether that is taking a layout and adding an input like we were doing earlier, or if you just want to add some graphics into that, that kind of stuff. And Hans appreciates the dedication, and thank you, Hans. I appreciate that comment. Another question from IT Never Gets Old. Do you always use paper or do you use cloth for backgrounds? I do have cloth. I have like a crushed gray muslin type cloth, which I've used for, I don't know, like farmer shoots where we needed a very like moody look. And it's easier to transport too. Like because like these backgrounds they're difficult, and New York City, trying to get something into the back of a cab is a bit of a challenge. So yeah, like cloth is easier to move around. I've also got a lot of just those like 7x5 flop out type backgrounds, which are great for being able to easily transport, and then it pops up and you can basically get like a mid shot. So depending on your distance to the background, you could kind of cover the background with, I've got like a black and a white and a green and a blue and that kind of stuff. So it kind of gives me if I need to do a chroma key of like some CEO and he's talking in this sort of space, then I can just get that background that'll flop out. So that's much easier. And then in the studio, I've got paper because it's sort of just stays there and it lives there. Okay, do you control your PTZ cameras only with the Stream Deck, or do you have another PTZ controller as well for backup use? At the moment, my backup is Canon's terrible remote. it's just a shitty remote. I don't like it. I can't believe how bad this remote is. It's not an Apple device. It doesn't feel good to use. And I find myself looking down here to be like, let's see if I can bring this up here. So you've got your buttons and stuff. So occasionally I do use this just to like turn on and off the camera. And what I don't like is this zoom button. So like all these buttons feel the same. And then you've got to, I mean, I guess if I used it a lot, I would eventually go, okay, so it's going to be over here for zoom forwards and backwards. Let me put on camera 2. I wonder if this will, yeah, so I can like control it like that. And this way a bit, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's my sort of backup. And then in terms of, I haven't had a problem yet. I think that's the main thing, is like, because everywhere I go, I take my own router. So all of Companion settings are on my own network. I think that's, it's really important with Companion to basically own the network parameters. If you take Companion and you just using a switch and you plug into someone else's network, you run the risk of just not having control over the environment. So if you have a router, and I've got a great little barrel router, it's only like this big, but it's powerful enough to like do the job. Everything's running through that, and I haven't a problem with it. So yeah, that's the way to do it to fall back. Yeah, I know what you mean though about like having a secondary control. I mean, I sort of have that with 2 Stream Decks, even though they're going into the one thing. And I do have, I'm using Companion on my Mac, but I also have a Companion Pi in the rig, which is there if I needed to switch over. I could plug into that. So I do have, I guess, like a backup version of Companion running if I was doing something like really important, like a client job, rather than just like my own thing. So the other reason I haven't bought Canon's, I'd probably say, like, even though like Canon's console thing, I don't even know what it's called. It's like $2,000 or something, which if you need it, you should get it for sure. But the reason I haven't bought it yet is like just space. It's like, I got to put it somewhere. I got to store it somewhere. It's just like the more stuff that I buy is the more stuff I have to manage and look after. And I am trying to sort of avoid doing that. So I have liked that everything fits into the Stream Deck. And so what I'm building out here is, let me go to PTZ. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. What am I doing? PTZ 2 under this one. I can come back to my preset here. Right, so I'm building out something so that under PTZ I can have a shortcut. I'm just going to get rid of this comment. And then basically I've got my drive controls. I've got 9 presets, which have been built using this feedback stuff so that I know that at the moment PTZ1 is green. So this is one that's highlighted. Remember we made this text bigger. We saw that before. And the background color is green. So if I went over to PTZ2, then I can see that I'm actually on camera. And this is a mess because I haven't actually, I'm building everything in 1 and then I'm going to copy it over to 2. But on PTZ1 is the green, and if I was on program, this background would go to sort of a dark red so that I know that it's just a visual reminder that anything that I do is going to be, it's going to be live on air. So I need to be careful. So I need to pay attention to, am I on a repo or am I on drive speed? And so I've got my buttons here, I've got my control, I've got autofocus or manual focus. I can zoom in and out, which I'm actually looking at camera 1 here, but you're looking at camera 2, so you're not seeing anything in there. And then what have I got? I got fast and slow control for the keypad, and I've got drive, slow, and fast for changing these settings. And then for each camera, I've got this, you can see here it says, it's a list of my settings. So I'm on manual, f2.8, 1/60th of my shutter, 5600 Kelvin is my color balance, and I'm in 0 dB. So that's sort of the vital statistics that I need to know that, like, yes, this is the way that I want this camera set up. And if I press this, it brings me to this secondary page where I have drive control, and I've got auto or manual control, and I can adjust all of the parameters. So there's now enough control in here that I can build in pretty much everything that I would need to be able to arrive at the job and get the cameras set up without having to even open up the web browser version of this. And then I'm sort of building some presets and that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm working on with that. It's still something that I'm finessing and playing with and just sort of trying it out. And like, I think it's always with, like, when I'm designing this kind of stuff, is like, how do I want to, what's the user experience of this? Like, for example, when you're calling up cameras, I've got a mode where, like, if I hold this down, I can now turn on like a gang preview. So as I press these buttons, it's going to actually put this camera into preview. So if I'm a solo operator, I can, I could be on camera 1 or camera 2 or whatever, wherever I am, hit camera 1, and this is preloaded, so I'm in the preview ready to go. And that's where I would, on the repo, I would go, I wonder if I can bring this up on custom. I'm going to bring this one up, and then I need to change my input on 1 to PTZ1. Okay, so so you can see what I'm doing here now. Okay, so this is the effects on the camera. So, I mean, this angle I really only got 2 positions because there's an auto cue around it, so there's not much I can do with this camera, but the one that's above me has a lot, like it has a ton of, I've got my blurred shot, which was this one. We made it blurred and it went up there, so when it was starting the show, we could just have that kind of out of focus type look. And then when I ran the show cue, which remember we set up last week, I added in a delay so that after I've cut to this angle and I'm zooming in, that this upper camera is going to reset to this one, I think. Yeah, so in the background it's doing this and getting that set up so it's ready to be looked at. Okay, so what I was talking about was, like, in terms of the design, it's like trying to have a flow where you're going 1, 2, 3, cut, rather than like over here, over there, or that kind of stuff. So, so if I'm coming onto a camera, and here's a good example of using this button. So see how the background is red. So this is in use, and so this background is red, and so it's showing me that, like, anything I do is live to this camera. Just a reminder. And it's also, this dot is showing me that it's also in preview. So if I if I cut, oh, you can't see it because I'm on full screen there, but that's swapping those indicators as well. So when I'm setting up a shot in the background, I would be, just pretend this is on preview and not on program right now. I might, in the repo position, go just like I'm trying to find the shot. So I'm going to go, okay, this one, okay, this is where I want to get to, and I'm going to go back to position 1. And so now, before I cut to this, I need to choose, am I going to use speed or time, and is it going to be fast or slow? So let's use slow, and we're going to use speed 1. I've been obviously not the other setup. What have I got here? Why is it not doing it? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on there. I have found this module sometimes a little bit, let's just kill it. Okay, so let's go to settings. I'm just going to kill this companion module. So I've turned this off, turn this back on. Hopefully this is working now. There we go. There's an example of a bug that could, that could be a problem. I don't know, something in the network settings got stuck with the camera in that particular module of companion. Okay, so then we've got, so the repo is the fast position. So remember, if I hit this, it's going to go quickly, and I don't want to do that. I want to find my position, so we're going to go to 1, and then I want to put it onto drive speed 1. And now what I'm going to do is hit 2 and take, because so I want to start this, and then I'm going to fade across. So I've started my camera position, and then I've cut or I've faded into something. So what I was saying about the nature of when you're designing something, you want to think about, are you jumping around all the places, or is there a flow of like, okay, set this, then that, and it's even like physically, like the layout of that is just kind of makes sense. So yeah, okay. All right, let's cut back to, what do we got here? Back on camera, okay. A question from Martin, who is excited that, which 4-rack case did you get for your upcoming build? Is it one of those with wheels on it, and will you be making a video on about it? And he's excited for that. I am excited too. Over the weekend, I bought a whole lot of stuff. So that's arriving this week, and then in the next week or two, I've got to build it. So you've probably seen you may have seen on my channel last year, I did an ATEM Mini Pro rack build. But since then I've gotten the Extreme, and the Extreme is really like it sits somewhere. It's not something that is in a portable rack where you'd put that on a tripod. It just needs to sit out of the way. So I've needed a rack, and I was looking at a bunch of things because I feel like I could quite easily use an 8 rack unit. But then I was also thinking about like the practicality of moving that around, like, and this comes back to the Apple comment of like, do I enjoy using the gear that I have, or does the gear just become burdensome, and do I hate my job and I don't want to do video production anymore? So I think you got to think about like the amount of gear that you buy, what sort of stuff, is it, enjoyable, or is it a drain, And so over the years, I've like streamlined my lights. So they're all aperture lights now, so I can use it on an app. So I can sit here and I can dial in positions rather than being like, oh my God, I got to like get the ladder out and go back up into the rig and change the, all that kind of stuff. So same sort of thing with a rack. We shall see how this goes. So on, okay, so this is what I got. You might have seen this before. So this is a SKB injected molded 4RU Studio Flyer rack. It's got, we'll see how we go here, because I think one of the things I liked about it, it's got this flat top so you can put something on it. I don't think I'll even put a computer. Maybe I'll put like an audio mixer on there and that kind of stuff. And then it's got holes in the top here, so you can get cables into the rack. You can take off the front and the back, and it seems like a size that is good, that you could roll that off to a job and not feel like you hate your life because you're some, like, I don't know, just lugging gear around all the time. So that's how you can like separate this off. So we'll see how we go in terms of building that out. And I've been designing this. Let me see. I've been designing this in Docs Rack. This is not, I don't know if this is the most official way to do it. But it's basically, I've been thinking about, like, this is the side view in terms of if I've got 15 inches of depth, what things am I putting in there? How much space is in the middle? Because you got patch cables coming in either side. And then, yeah, like how does, if you've got, like, so the ATEM will probably be up here and it'll be back to front, so it's facing out. So that from the front, it's probably going to look a little bit like this. It might be an open gap here. I'll do something there. I'll have like a fan, patch panel, some switches. And on the back view, like, I want everything facing out so it's easy access and enough of a gap to kind of reach in and change things. And I think I'll keep some of these trays a little more loose so that I can move them around. And I don't know, this is my first time building a rack, and we'll just see how we go in terms of that. And these patch panels is something I'm working on. There's a really cool website that you can design custom panels for all the patching through. So that's where the direction of this is happening, or where it's going. And the idea there is that at the moment my ATEM Mini is just sitting on top of a filing cabinet with a switch and that kind of stuff. So this will be consolidated once again into something where it'll be moved up onto the shelf. So it's sitting on the shelf. I'll still be at the desk. So in terms of what you see, nothing will look any different. But then when I go to a job, it's really, you know, rolling it out the door, living my best life, and not, you know, spending hours setting something together. Hans has two separate setups, one with the Extreme and one with the Mini, and that's the reason the question about which shared HDMI input. And as I said, explaining how the process runs is definitely helping. I'm wondering, isn't it possible to pipe the button that loads the green screen with the H2R button? I'm not sure if you mean pipe or if that's a typo. But yes, you can you could basically, and I had that in previous versions, which was a button that would, like if you're on H2R graphics where you've got chroma key, it would switch off the chroma stuff, it'd switch the input over so that you're, what would it do? It would hit stop on VLC, which essentially on a Mac, you get the whole screen that whoosh, goes away. So then you got just your desktop there. So it would switch between VLC and H2R that kind of way. Cool. All right, I feel like we've been going for a long time. Wow, I've been going 2 hours. This is way too long. All right, I'll try and keep these shorter. But thank you for your questions. I did appreciate that. It's really nice to have you guys on here each week and to meet the same people. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Let me know in the comments what sort of things you would like experience on in terms of companion and live streaming and that kind of stuff. And then let's get the show wrapped up because John is, I don't know if John started. If he has started, go over to his channel. Otherwise, I will see you next week back here. See you guys.